Okay. I think we're live. We'll see.
We'll find
Yeah,
out.
we'll find out. Hi everyone, I'm Alli. We'd love if you're here just to share in the comments where you're calling in from. And yeah, not calling in from, is it 1985?
It's 1985. Yes, somewhere there's a phone that's ringing that's connected to a wall that the whole family is fighting over. Saying, get off. I'm expecting a very important call right now.
I swear I'm not 11 years old. But yeah, if you can share where you're coming in from, and I'm gonna hop over just to double check on LinkedIn because I think I can see. Let's see, US number. This is our first time going live, so
yes,
bear with us. Okay, I think it's happening.
Cool.
Okay, it's live.
So it's the inaugural LinkedIn Live. There's a lot of inaugural things.
Oh yeah, there is a lot of inaugural things.
Yes. So
we like it.
Yeah. Yes. So we're present to the fact that for anyone out there, first, want to just celebrate and send warm wishes to you on this Juneteenth, 2026.
Yes.
And yeah.
We love Juneteenth. I've been celebrating it since I was a kid because I grew up in Houston. And so as part of like the Black history training my mom gave us, we learned about Juneteenth when I was a kid.
So your mother was the one that taught you about Juneteenth?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Wow.
She's pretty badass, my mom.
So I've come to hear, and maybe she would be joining us at some points. I would love to have a conversation with your mom. All the stories I hear is that she is incredibly badass, and she obviously raised a daughter who is just fire.
Thanks, friend.
And a fire in my life too. And yeah, and so, whether you are joining us live today or you're going to be watching us in the recording, I just want to personally start by just saying that we see you. We honor you. If you're choosing to be here, it is because that we are all aligned to something incredibly important that our minds, our hearts, our spirits have, which is about building a world that is nourishing and honoring the dignity, right? And to break through and find a third way, a third world that goes beyond the systems that have not been built for all of us. And that is one of the reasons why Alli and I are so passionate about holding space and choosing Juneteenth in particular as a time to kick off a more public conversation, as we've been having our own like sisterly conversations since last November, like seeking a place to explore these ideas more. Do you want to add something, Alli, to that?
Yeah, just as a little bit of background. So as Steph mentioned, we started talking about this. We had this conversation about leadership back last fall and realized like when we looked at the themes, this idea of the play of sovereignty and solidarity and how they play together seemed like a natural thing to jump into. And Philadelphia, we both have links to Philadelphia. We'll get in more to that, but we're just here to share a little bit more about how we're thinking about it, and to invite you to add your thoughts in the comments at any time. Yeah, that's what I would add.
Yeah. And so from those conversations, and it really, for me, my memory of it, Alli, is that it began around a question you had asked me around why why at this point in my leadership work, I was so focused in on sovereignty, individual sovereignty, and why I felt that, why does sovereignty have to come before we can get to solidarity? And so hence really the big theme here that we're here to explore. And we invite you to share in the comments any ideas or thoughts you've had around this, about how these two play together. And if you have read Alli's work, she actually did this beautiful job of articulating why, after we had this conversation, we came to this mutual agreement that sovereignty is, in a sense, the prerequisite or has to precede solidarity. And that's what we're going to really dive into today a little bit, and how then that led us into, really with Alli's seed vision, the idea of creating an immersive experience that we will talk about later, that is set in Philadelphia, to give us a chance to learn and dive deep into those two pieces more, and having them come together in a more immersive learning and creating experience.
Wow. Shall we get to it?
Yeah. Let's jump in. Let's jump in.
Let's do it. Yeah. Why these two words? Like, what, one thing that you said before you even get there, one thing that you said that like really resonated with me as we were building this sojourn, was this idea that history is not just a wound. And so this idea that history can be a blueprint. And so often when we look back on, especially if you're a person of color or have some sort of marginalized background, when you look back at your history, we're taught the things that make why we're marginalized and how that gets manifested in the world. We don't often look back to celebrate. And so I think like this is a really cool way of like remembering the wisdom that our ancestors had as they navigated the things that were oppressive in their world. So I think that like that call out is really important. I appreciate you said that.
Yeah. I mean, you really inspired me, because if you follow Alli's work, she's been leading, and I was in, I think, the first pilot group of the Subversive Dreamers series. And it happened to fall at this time for me with, I suppose what I would say is like, why these two words, sovereignty, solidarity, why this order of sovereignty before solidarity, is because, speaking from my own personal experience, as somebody who's, I just feel like it was in my DNA from childhood, this idea that every single human being has inherent worth and value, and we deserve opportunities. To some degree, my parents supported that, just in their own work from other countries that had been, they had been occupied in their countries of origin. And they had studied, and they were philosophers. And so my family, I grew up just this idea of the fact that everybody should have inherent worth. And when I first started reading, and I was a history buff, it was like I literally, my whole body would just break down in pain. And so through my whole my own career trajectory, anytime there was an opportunity to volunteer, to do work together, to move towards justice, to move towards, inclusion and all of the weaponized words we can't use anymore. That one of the things I noticed was that I and many other people, at some point you would burn out. B, recognizing that within the like solidarity movements, and that if you don't have a clear understanding of yourself and your identities and what you're bringing to the table, that you can unintentionally create harm, number one. Number two, I think with sovereignty for me is about being able to really own your own worth, your own agency, your clarity about your own unique gifts, abilities to lead, and to realize that if you have an understanding of who you are in the context of, and be also very well aware about society, you can be a positive contributor into other people. But if you don't have really good self-knowledge and self-awareness, and we talk about this a lot, that good intentions is a good first step. But we also can unintentionally, if we don't have sovereignty and we feel like there's still places that we feel entitled to get some, or have to do something to fight for, then we start bringing these weird power dynamics unintentionally and subconsciously into our work. And then we wonder why it's so much harder. But I have learned with more self-love, with more the work that I do, like the work I do around personal branding, ultimately the root of it is understanding your identity and holding a foundational home and space for you. My capacity to share power, my capacity to see other people, it expands. Right. So that was where I was coming from about it. And yeah, Alli, what's been your experience with?
Yeah, I love what you said, just really resonates about the idea that sovereignty is about people's values and their unique perspectives. And that really resonates with me. I think when I think about what's interesting about our work, it's like you're coming at it with this, especially Steph hasn't really talked about the human design stuff.
I know. I'm dying to, but we're gonna teaser spoiler. Yeah.
Because what's fascinating about my human design chart, it says one of the things I'm here to do is like help us not basically create solidarity. Like, how do we pay attention to both the group and the individual needs? I think that's like, in essence, what solidarity is like how you use your power and privilege and whatever you have available to act to benefit the whole community. And I think sovereignty is necessary because you have to not require external validation.
Yes.
Because I feel like that external validation is the thing that makes us feel scarcity, makes us feel lack, all those things. We're trying to like stay in good, we wanted people to think well of us. And so I remember a teacher of mine, Dr. Christina Cleveland, said, if you're in solidarity with people, you cannot seek their approval. And what she was talking about is like, and this comes up with leaders, right? You do something, you're trying to do the best, you're trying to operate in a liberatory way, and people come for your neck, right? And it's like, and then you get upset about that. But what I've learned is if you're sovereign, they can be mad. You know what I mean? And like, you can take from that feedback something and take it, but you don't have to be defensive. Like, you don't have to defend yourself. That's what it is to be sovereign, is to know like your feet are planted on the ground of your worth. If that yeah.
Oh, it totally makes sense. And what you said about not needing to seek external validation. And the flip side of that is that that actually is very powerful I think what living in the society we live in, living under the systems we live in, we have been inscribed upon through history, marketing, teachers, family members who tell us what our worth is, right? Or capitalism. And so our worth often just like it's not even of ours. And then we're seeking power outside of ourselves, and it becomes this grab bag of how do I get ahead? And one of the things about sovereignty for me is that when you really know who you are and you are owning the fullness of your worth and you're owning what those special gifts are, like I said, with human design, one as a tool is it's so incredible, because having given leadership assessments to hundreds at this point of leaders, we all have our own archetype. And it's an archetype we can feel at home in. Like when you hear it for the first time, you realize, oh my gosh, this is who I really am. And I think the idea of actually recovering inner power and inner sources of energy we didn't know we had allows us to rest into ourselves and also be able to be strong enough to hold face to our values. Because I do think then when it comes to solidarity, and solidarity isn't often work we're doing out of care, but also facing so much external opposition, you need the self-agency to hold fast to your values.
Right.
You need to actually have that home within yourself. So instead of like a country that's recognizing you and saying you belong here, which we want that too, not saying we don't.
Right.
And maybe my own, birthright citizenship might go away at some point. I don't know. But when you have when you have that foundation of like, I know I belong here. I know that these values matter to me. And you can anchor yourself. And I think then when we come together, then we can help each other when it comes to, I think, the collective care piece and the fact that everybody is different and needs are different and different histories and relationships are different, that there's more clarity, that more leaders in the mix. And when I say leaders, I mean like everybody who's in there, who's just owning, the gifts that they have, then we can actually be more generous in sharing those things without worrying that we are going to disappear or we're going to lose something because we are already holding it so well together. And so I feel like those two things together, whereas it's like when I think about, when you look at the power dynamics of, I'm trying to think of what the model I'm blanking from, but it's like when we look at what's it called? Not mob mentality, but just herd mentality. I think herd mentality is a little bit, if we looked in, the question I would have is how sovereign do the people feel that are falling into herd mentality, right? Whereas we can hold fast and we can have more integrity when we have that self-agency,
Yeah. It's really fascinating because when you look at the science behind it, is that we've been conditioned to be very sensitive to social threats because we are social animals, and so we need each other to survive, even though we don't. And we know there's power differentials, and so we've been conditioned to protect the person with the most power because that's who is protecting us. And I think, which is great, we helped us stay here and evolve and all those things, and we're here in 2026. And a lot of times we think there's a social threat that actually isn't there. And like when you were talking, it reminded me of I used to get feedback all the time about my facial expressions in meetings because I have a very expressive face. Like I don't even know what it's doing half the time. And I remember when I told one of my bosses, I was like, look, this is what my face is going to be doing. You can stop giving me feedback about it. And let me tell you, not only did that person stop giving me feedback about it, nobody else gave me feedback since then. And it was like I cleared a level in a game. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm not engaging with this with any of you. And now it goes away. And so like, I think there's something about that of like, I don't need your opinion here. Thank you. And just keep it moving.
And just keep it moving. Yeah. And it's like owning that this is how you express yourself, right?
100%.
and you let it be. And I feel like that part of then the beauty of that, I've been really just, I've been obsessed with this idea of leading from our being, right? And creating from our being, making, doing from our being, which then, and I just want to say it's so interesting the way you had mentioned in your human design, Alli, that when we went through your leadership archetype, I mean, it's so clear. It's so clear that solidarity, but also a leader in solidarity, and one that has these special gifts about, I mean, you've got some special gifts that really speak to overcoming obstacles and like literally mutating status quo. And then in my own human design, and this is where I want to talk about like the beauty of sovereignty and you know, solidarity coming together, is that my human design structure and archetype is very different. Mine is very open and receptive, where it's all about being able to see people very, very deeply. And the life theme that goes through my work is also, we share some areas of compassionate care for the collective, but that my gifts come with helping to provoke those who want it to own their self-agency. Like it's literally right in my, you know, and it's the stuff that energetically lights me up so much, right? So the fact that we came together and we made space, like, first of all, we got so curious about our own respective like leadership archetypes that when I say that, I mean the places where energetically there is actual joy and thriving that comes when you do that lane of work that is literally your body wants to do it. And then what happens when we came together, because you have such a strong solidarity lens and then I have such a strong sovereignty lens. And so we were just dancing around and exploring these questions like, how come you think this way? And I'm like, and how come you think this way? And which is what ends up birthing third way possibilities and third way questions and right and places of creativity.
I just pulled up one of our, we've been like going, we put together these questions and we've been going everywhere, but I just pulled up one that I thought would be interesting to touch on, because I think you're already going there, which is like, where do we feel like that push and pull between sovereignty for ourselves, right? Like, where do we, and before I go to the question, one thing that's interesting about your gifts is my understanding in human design, it also tells you about your shadow, that the things you need to like unlearn your gifts. And I feel like this question is like connected to that. So where do we feel that push and pull in our own relationship, our own leadership between sovereignty and solidarity? And where is it hard to hold them both?
Yeah, absolutely. And I also invite folks who, I just want to say, hello, Marian. Hello, Natalie. It's so good to see you live. And just invite you to share if you're having like personal ahas to this. Obviously, this is an exploration. So if things are popping up for you related to your own definition of sovereignty or how you look at solidarity, the relationships between the two. If you have questions, feel free in the chat. And the same thing with this push-pull question, because I feel like what this question of push-pull is so important. And I feel like one of the reasons why I think owning yourself is really important, because the push-pull is often the dynamics where solidarity will break down, right? If we can't address the fact that as human beings, we're going to have gifts and we're going to have shadows. So for me, I have felt my struggle with sovereignty has come from, and I'm still on the journey, but the two places that I'm the most aware of it is that being somebody who ancestrally is Chinese and Japanese, And my parents came over in the 60s. My parent and being an identity that is sometimes externally used as white adjacent. Like my identity gets used as a lever to support different agendas. I did not realize that, not knowing the history of being an AA and NHPI person. So realizing that my parents had no path to legal, no Chinese person had legal path to citizenship until 1965. That's the year my parents came, right? And to be in spaces where, because obviously we have to center Black people when we were talking about the oppressive system and the big one, you know, the big thing we need to fix, and then enable, right, other people. But what often happens is in my career, when I've been in, my struggle has been, then where do I belong in this space? When the dialogue, and I'll just give an example, you know, in one of my former nonprofits, when we were going through core values and we were doing book clubs, doing book clubs to study together. The book club, I found myself super triggered, and it was both my shadow as well too, was that the entire discussion, even though the book itself was Beverly Tatum's book. Why are the books?
All the Black kids sitting together.
In the lunchroom. And I had appreciated in the preface that she did devote some chapters, right, to other folks. And in the chapter she had written about Asian Americans, she acknowledged that she does not have the expertise to do this, but she included us in the conversation, right? And I'll get to the history in a second. But the challenge for me to participate was that the book discussion just sort of naturally went into the binary of a Black and white discussion, and my own lived experience, plus my own academic work I had done, studying the intersection actually of Black and Asian different. There's a lot of solidarity, but there's a lot of solidarity movements, and also there's been a lot of institutional, like, let's have them battle each other out, so then that way, you know, powers that be get to hold power. And so my shadow was, I didn't have enough agency or sovereignty in myself to participate in the conversation, because I was waiting for permission for someone to say it's okay for me to be in there. And so I was struggling with people because I often will see third way things in there. And it's not even necessarily about me talking about Asians, but I do feel like there's power dynamics we miss out on that are at play that we could dismantle if we actually examine the way we use other groups of color in very nuanced ways to hold up this system. And so, but I did not have voice for it. I didn't believe I deserved a voice in that room. I helped. So what I did was I said, you know, I want to give space, right? And sometimes giving space, but then it actually became silence. In that case, you know, because I ended up falling into the belief that there's only one seat at the table.
Yeah.
I need to give it to my Black siblings. So I'll just, you know, but in fact, if we actually said, but hold up, just like our conversation, if we were in solidarity with each other, and again, if I had enough sovereignty to just say, hey, this is a rich conversation, and I have this other perspective. I'll put it out there and just have you think about it. It could have really enriched the conversation. So that's an example of that push-pull, which is more about invisibility and hiding, which is part of the shadow side of sovereignty is invisibility and hiding. For safety, for keeping the
Mhm.
peace, for a whole host of things.
Yeah. It's so fascinating, that conversation that you're thinking of, because what it sounds like is there's that binary, and like one of the hallmarks of white supremacy culture is like either or
Yes.
thinking, right? And so it's like you're either marginalized or you're in the dominant group, and if you're in the dominant group, you should shut the fuck up. Excuse my French.
Yeah.
But I feel like we just broke the seal.
Broke the seal. We should. Third way. Keep going.
But now I don't remember what I was saying. I thought of perimenopause moment.
Yes, we're normalizing. We're also, you all, normalizing menopause. There's no need to apologize for it. 50% of the world has it.
Right.
Or will have it. We're owning it.
It's been a real ride.
It's been a ride.
But yeah, like the binaries of white supremacy culture. And what I think in those conversations, what happens, it's like fascinating to me, is that people are like, well, I'm not allowed to talk. And I'm like, of course you're allowed to talk. What you need to unlearn is like taking up all the space. It's like, how do you talk and share the space? That's the whole thing. That's solidarity, right? Like in a nutshell, how do you participate but not take all, hoard everything?
Yes.
It's like,
right.
So for me, my shadow, and you'll probably tell me if I'm right about this.
Oh, I'm glad you trust me that much.
I know a people pleaser. And that's something I'm having to unlearn, is like, I'm Libra rising, is, keeping the peace and wanting to keep the peace, which I think is a lot of why I do some of the restorative conflict work that I do. So learning to get comfortable with people being in conflict, I'm not at all, like, I'm still working on that. And then I know that I have a visibility shadow, but I'm not 100% sure how it connects to solidarity. I'm curious if you see something there.
I think it connects to sovereignty. I feel like as we're talking, there's more and more when we talk about the shadows. And I'm so curious for folks, because like there's a rich conversation happening in the comments here. Like, hi, Stephanie. And I think that part of what disempowers us is when we are allowing our shadow to be the story of who we are, And so that's why I do go back to story a lot, because I think it's really important that for any of us to hold sovereignty and be able to be like, why not me? And we all have leaders that we see who have, let's say, do not own the identities that would have natural privilege, and they own themselves completely, and they're serving other people at the same time. And to your point, they don't seem to be on the outside, at least the way they use their voice.
Right.
Whatever, right? I mean, everyone's a human. So of course we all have shadows, and we're going to work on them until, this entire lifetime. But what I find with the shadows of taking up space, I wonder, we're going to play around a little bit. I think invisibility, I wonder if, as a Black woman, and again, the inscribed dominant story about angry Black women, whether or not that plays into then, I don't know if I'm going to ask you that question to sit on, And for me, it's like, there was once, and I say that, like, one of the things I'll share, this is like in the 80s, there was a documentary, one of the very teeny tiny moments that you actually learned about Asian American history before there were any departments. There was a documentary about Asian Americans in film, media, and television. And there was a professor who talked about how capitalism works in film and TV. And that at that time in the 80s, and that was when Connie Chung broke through and she became like the first news anchor who was Asian American, that to move ahead, this was a white man saying this, to move ahead then is oh, to hire a person of color, hiring a Black woman would just cause you trouble because she's
Mm,
going to speak out and whatever.
mm,
So go hire a more docile
mm-hmm.
Asian faced person, right?
Yeah.
And they'll hold the system up just fine.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know. I think that we all have these different, that's on a more macro level of
Yeah.
things. Um, I
I,
think that, yeah, I mean, I don't know what you think, but for me, I realized as somebody who's an Asian American who by nature, I'm a person that will call things out, but
mhm.
and the same time I noticed that the invisibility would come up if there seemed to be this expectation that I'm supposed to be keeping. So I look at, for me, I'm people pleasing by virtue of keeping the peace at
Yeah.
all costs or something.
Yeah.
That was what I used to do, but I don't know. What do you think? I also know that there's some personal stories about taking up space too. So that for
Yeah.
you, that's
Yeah.
why I'm like, I don't,
Yeah.
I've seen you speak up a lot. So maybe I'm trying to see a place where you people please, quite frankly. I never got to work with you directly in the place that we both worked at, so I can't actually speak to it.
Oh, she's like, I don't think you're pleasing. You try and please people. Um, well, I think it is connected to that, like taking a space piece of like,
Yeah.
and I appreciate you calling in like some of the systemic things because, and we should switch topics after.
Yeah, yeah, I know. See, we could. This is what happens if you ever want to chat with us.
But like, there's like not taking up space and being invisible and being pleasing or trying to be pleasing is about creating safety for myself because when I am not those things, or I'm taking up too much space, it is an unsafe environment. So I appreciate you calling that in because it's a reminder of like, it's not just these shadows in a vacuum, they're really playing out in society and all the stuff.
Yeah.
So should we switch to just talk through the sojourn itself and like what we're creating based on these two ideas so that we can open up the conversation? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to, if before we do that, I just wanted to share, if it's okay, a couple of the comments that people have made around. Yeah. So I just wanted to say, because this is a juicy conversation that I know we're both so fascinated how your own personal relationship as a leader, doing this mission, impact, justice work, if you're noticing that this conversation is igniting and you are helping you see where, like how you've been feeling in your sovereignty. And so I noticed that, like, Stephanie Lowe said that, this was when I was talking about, she says, I've increasingly noticed how when I'm not feeling sovereign, my insecurities get in the way of genuine solidarity, which is totally, yes, right? That's exactly it. It reminds me of some work I've done with AAPI affinity groups and how many want to jump to cross-racial solidarity. But I've learned that we have to heal and work on our own self-love in order to divest from the mono-minority myth and anti-Blackness first before genuinely making progress on cross-racial community solidarity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So thank you so much for saying that. And Natalie is saying that this is a really helpful reframe of the definition of solidarity and a prerequisite for me. Yeah, I hope that gives you like more spaciousness, Natalie, for you to be feeding into yourself, your own power, owning, right? The leadership archetype that you have that breaks the mold of these molds we're trying to jump out of, right? So
absolutely.
All right. So let's jump into like, how could we play? How can we take this idea, if this is juicy to you all, and through our conversation, we decided to create an experience that we thought we would want to have and that maybe others would want to have with us, right?
Right. Okay, I'm gonna pull up our our slides. So we created this, it was called Subversive Sojourn with S. And we would love to just share a little bit about what we're creating and invite you all. We're so excited about this. This is so beautiful and juicy. So let's get into it.
Yes. So, okay. So this is an idea that was originally birthed from the Subversive Dreaming series that Alli has been guiding people through. And she really introduced me to the idea of maroon communities, and specifically where communities of freedom that were created despite under systems of oppression, right? And so from there, we were talking about, she opened up these questions of what can we learn from past ancestors about how they created conditions of freedom in places that were not built for them. And so in thinking about how could we walk, experience, imagine, create from, we're like, let's create an experience. And so the first one will be in Philadelphia on August 28th. Yes. And I'll share a little bit about why Philadelphia in a second, but it is such a beautiful example of where this idea of sovereignty and solidarity cooked up something together in a city within a city in Philadelphia in 1838. There were, and so what I wanted to share about this is, and we'll talk about, because there was a freedom community created there by 20,000 free Blacks who created an ecosystem and architecture and infrastructure that included everything from education, finance, holistic wellness for slaves that were arriving for safe passage, right? So this is why we created Philadelphia. We're like, this is the first inaugural one that we'll have. And a couple, so one is that what an incredible system for us to study from that is hidden from history. You will not find too much about it on Google. You can probably try and chat GPT and you'll get this much. I had the honor of being able to walk through a tour of the Black Metropolis tour of 1838, and these archives and these buildings and the historians who know the stories, who share that and bring to life. These things are not yet available in an online space. They can only be felt. It's the first place where Harriet Tubman experienced freedom, and you would literally be standing and touching, same spots where she and tens of thousands of others began their freedom journey and began to create thriving lives. And they didn't wait for permission, and there's a lot to learn there. So that, coupled with the fact that we are now celebrating the sesquicentennial, I finally can say that without stuttering, of the United States. When I was walking through in this year particularly, I just couldn't help thinking about how 6 blocks apart, there were 2 freedom experiments from oppression. Within 50 years of each other, just doing some approximate math there. And I live here now, and I grew up here as well. And I can tell you the air that you will breathe, the environment, how they're preparing for this. What does democracy mean this summer? I can't think of a better environment and group of people and ancestors to learn from, to open this up.
Yeah, I think what's fascinating about Philly is, like you said, you didn't know, you wouldn't know that these 2 communities live next to each other. And one of the architectures of these freedom communities is how do you protect, the protection, and William Still, who had played a huge role in the Underground Railroad and helping people escape slavery. He was like, don't write anything down. Keep it secret, because that was a way to protect people. He knew if there were documents, that it would be easier to find people. And so I think like there's so much wisdom as we think about these third ways, like you said, of that, of like you can create things outside of the systems of oppression, but then also just be reminded of the bravery and brilliance of our ancestors and remember that they passed it down to us, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So,
and I love that, Alli, because you really opened my eyes to this idea of reframing history differently too. Instead of, obviously it's important on a day like today and in our lives in general to understand our history and understand how systemic injustice happened and that we work towards fixing it, but that there are these, you talk a lot about blueprints, you talk a lot about since history is written by the so-called winners, there's all this generative brilliance that we could really pull from. And I think we're so excited to be able to come here and create an experience so that all of us who are now, the folks that the ancestors are cheering on at this point in 2026, what can we do with our brilliance again and be able to help each other just imagine and break through and have so many different possibilities that we don't get at home.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes me think that I just want to walk through the day quickly because I love this. One day I want to share the story of how we came up with this.
Yeah.
But, it starts with this tour that Steph is talking about. And why 1838? That's around the time that the Fugitive Slave Act got passed, which was about incentivizing white people to capture or report formerly enslaved people that had run away. And so this period in time is like this ecosystem was even more important, and the like ability to protect was even more important. And then we'll get a moment to I think rest is really important in general of like how we disconnect from systems of oppression and labor. So we've built in some intentional rest. And then we're going to head to a museum, and instead of like writing a paper about what we what we experienced, we're going to make art. We're going to make art and like use that to process together what we witnessed and what it tells us about what it is that we might want to create in the future. And then we'll end in this beautiful space that I just love so much. And we'll have this wonderful, luscious dinner and conversation together, and then close out the day. So I just think it's going to be a lovely, beautiful, inspiring time that we'll be together.
Yeah. And I just, can I add a couple of things?
I was going to ask you.
Yeah, I love this because it's like, Alli's been thinking about this experience in 4 movements and, this experience. So this is the experience of the full day, but there's even intentionality and sacredness that begins even before we start walking. So, we have reserved a beautiful private home that Alli found. I don't know for all of you, does anybody, just like fun fact that Alli, first of all, has a degree in hospitality and yes, has done a lot of hospitality work. So when I think about a consummate host who is going to when we cultivate this, that we cultivate this as an immersive journey that also, one of the things I love about her, having worked with her on her brand manifesto, is the way she talks about hospitality as a liberatory practice in it of itself, that luxury can be liberatory. And so we have this home base that's a home to ourselves. We'll have a gathering breakfast. It's all the food is going to be so like luscious. And then the spaces of rest, the same thing. And so we're going to actually also gather in advance online as a pre-sojourner community so that when you come in that day for breakfast, it's like you'll already know everybody's names and you'll already know their faces. And we're going to have like some just some really nourishing food and a little just sacred time together before we then embark on going on this walk, that the guided tour that is just for us. And you can ask so many questions. It's amazing how knowledgeable the tour guides are, and the way they just bring things to life. And I think that that in itself is just so beautiful. The resting space I want to talk about is that, you know, that Alli's work has been so informed by the NAP ministry, Patricia Hersey's work. And so wanted to make sure that that was in there so that things can marinate a little bit, you know. And in human design, there are some energy types like mine, I call it horizontal thinking, that actually get their best innovative work. Some people get innovation from movement. And so it's a space like you want to go explore, you want to go do things, you want to gather, amazing. You want to rest in the home, you want to like journal or just daydream or whatever is going to like feed you. You get to do that before we go to the art museum. And this isn't also, it's a private rented space. How many times do you get to literally be creative inside a museum? And and to be able to walk the exhibits if you want to. And we're going to have some really, you can independently work, but we're also going to have like different activities. And it's just going to be this sandbox, playful space that so many of us as, you know, leaders, it's like when we're thinking about how to lead into this unknown world on fire, I think the art of play could be maybe one of the most radical, nourishing things you could do for yourself, right?
Yeah.
And then the meal, and we're still confirming this, but we mentioned here, we're fingers crossed, that it will be catered by Honeysuckle. And that it will be at our home. And Honeysuckle is a James Beard awarded restaurant here in Philadelphia with 2 chefs who have been, we talk about the ancestry, they have been centering Black food traditions, ancestral food traditions. Their food is like beautiful, everything from the pottery that they serve on, which also has ancestral meaning, to the food. We're going to have this opportunity to really, like on a sensory level, to be able to gather, have conversations, and see how other people are in fact bringing together their sovereign gifts with creating these incredible meals that help people expand culture, and storytelling is actually core to their practice as well too.
I'm curious, Steph, like who are we hoping comes to this origin? Like what are we
Oh my gosh. Well, I want you all to come. Like everybody who I already see here, I was like, I want you all to come, seriously. And so I think the leaders that I see as folks that you are maybe still feeling like so much vision, but feeling wobbly around like just like the choices that are out there. When I think of choices, I think of, for those of us who care deeply about, you know, you're leading, you're carrying a team, you're carrying an organization, or you're a consultant who's like serving with organizations with these big dreams and impact, and you're like holding so much, but like who is holding you? Like who is carrying you? Who nourishes you so that you can pour into them? If you've been looking for something like that, then I think this is a beautiful place for you to be held like this, to be held and inspired and reignite your imagination again. And not to mention to be among and build relationships with 22 other like-souled change makers, and have friends and people you could walk away with so that you're not carrying it all on your own when you leave. I also think it's like for people who have been dreaming of, you know, whether you have been thinking more formally about liberatory practices or restorative work and repair, whether it's, or you are really thinking about, you know, in the situation we live in, like if you're working with helping to support the rights of people who are going, there's so many different groups who right now, they're literally like, I think, you know, the UN should be looking at us saying like, what are all our human rights infringements and things? And if that's work that, and you feel like you know, I don't know how to be impactful now, then I think that recognition of where you can get fresh ideas from by coming here, and again, these third spaces with each other, it's really your invitation to not just to imagine, but maybe get ignited and have different portals of ideas that are just waiting to be opened. But when we look at like rubrics, frameworks, and all the things, you know, maybe you're not getting it from the podcast you're listening to or the books that you're reading. But I really think that there's hidden treasure in here, having gone through the tour the first time with no one to talk to about it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like so much could come out. I really feel like you might really open yourself up in your creativity. And yeah, and then I think you just want to stop feeling like a human doing, and you want to get back to your own presence. And, you know, as you know, was mentioned in the chat a little bit, maybe it's like all the work is like your inner self is feeling tender, is feeling fragile. It needs, you know, it needs that boost to be able to reconnect to why you do the work you do in the first place, why you're the human, you know, like why you care about humans the way you care about humans. Right. And I think me personally, this one has been, I think once we designed out this, like I got so excited about this one because I find we are living in, I think we are living in a time that actually, that what we're calling normal, but you open up the news and it's like trauma, like literally, I think we are holding past traumas. I think then, you know, it's almost like we're expected to hold so much blowing up and then jump on a meeting and say, hey, I'm great, I'm fine, how are you? When these things are just not normal. And the compartmentalization or the disassociation, it's just really easy and hard to stay mindful and to be like a coherent, like a, what's the word I'm thinking of?
Grounded.
Yeah, ground in and feel really alive in your own body. And I really feel like the community energy, you know, as we've been hinting at, I do human design work. Not only do we have our own unique energies, but something happens collectively with our energies together. And I know you've all felt it when you've been a part of groups that have just left you feeling nourished just by being together. That I think is also incredibly important. If that excites you too, then we would love to have your amazing energy with us.
Yes. And if you just want to have fun with cool people who are fun and have fun.
Yes, we will.
Meandering
Good food. Yes, exactly. Right.
Well, I know we're like close to the end of our time, which it went really fast, but wanted to share a couple of ways that you could follow up with us. Like if you're ready, if you're like, I'm in, there's a QR code. You can scan that with your phones and the things, and it'll take you to the booking page. There's two packages that we have. So if you're local to Philadelphia, we have one like a day rate. And then if you're coming from afar, you get to stay in the luscious, beautiful, juicy, so lovely space with us. So if you're ready for that, and we'll put the links also in chat. Steph, do you have those to put in chat by any chance?
Yes, I will go ahead and do that.
So that's one thing. And then the other QR that we're going to give is if you're not quite ready, but you want to learn more, we have an interest list here. And we'll put both on in the chat that you can just sign up because you want to explore more and chat about it and learn more what's going on. We're starting a Freedom Fridays. So like on Fridays, we'll have similar conversations to this, I think. And discuss also, like, I'm excited to like explore what was going on in 1838 in preparation for this tour. There's so much when you dig into the story. So we'll talk about all of those things. So.
Oh, Alli, just a heads up, I'm having a tech issue. Like,
I'll put
it's
it in
blocking me. Yeah, it's blocking me from posting.
That's so weird. We don't
Yeah.
like that. Let me see if it'll let me.
I know. Me and tech.
Um,
And the place that we're staying, I just wanted to say, because we have that private home for the day, that for the local folks too, when we talked about that rest period, there's like these beautiful like living room spaces and salon spaces. So that's going to be available to you when, I mean, that's where we're going to eat. And so if you're going to like rest and restore and stuff like that, that's basically your home for the day.
Okay, so I'm putting the interest list in chat now, and then I'll also put the actual booking page too. Sorry, I'm like have to narrate when what I'm doing. I wish I could unlearn that, but alas.
Unlearn what?
Like the narration, you know, when you're like, I'm sharing my screen, let me share my screen. I don't know. I would love to like know the like research about why we do that. Does anyone know?
Well, I actually, to be honest with you, I do it for the reason of supporting people who are neurodiverse so that we know we transition. You know, I have a son with special needs and transitions are important. So I always prepare in advance, like what we're doing.
I love that. I'm going to claim that. That's why I narrate.
That's why you narrate, because you're always thinking about compassionate care. That's why.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. And so if anybody has any questions about either conversations or about this experience itself, we're happy to hold some time here if people want to. I also would be curious to hear what resonated. Oh, actually, can we keep going? Because there is more.
Yeah, there's
another slide.
Which one are you thinking of? Because I've been jumping around.
It's probably right after this one. Yes. Yes. Yeah, at this point, it's like, we're just so thrilled that you joined us today. And I love just the essence of this quote that like I invite everybody just internalized right now, that every great dream begins with a great dreamer. And that each one of us is a great dreamer. It's like how we were born this way. So I'd be curious if there is something that, even something you haven't said out loud yet, or something that you have, that I hope that, you know, we hope that you'll join us. But even if you don't, our hope is that you will let that seed continue to grow. Mm-hmm. Just like when the folks in 1838 did the same, you know, and that I think if each one of us owns that, the great dreamer to me is the sovereignty part. Mm-hmm. And then the great dream is where we get to share and share our medicine and our gifts with others in the care of others. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know what's fascinating about, I love Harriet Tubman, just and I hope people will add questions in the comments while I share this.
Yeah. Yeah.
She got a head injury when she was like around 12, 13. This overseer threw a huge, like 20-pound rake, who's throwing it at another enslaved person. And she caught a stray, right? And so she got hit in the head. She has head injury. And so she started to see these visions and have these really vivid dreams. And it's part of what led her on her journey. So like one of the dreams she shared was that she was flying over flying to freedom. She's like over the farmland. She can see it. She's almost there and she gets really tired. And she's like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to make it. And so she comes back to Earth, but she still makes it because there are all these women who help her go across and make her way. Wow. And like, you know what I mean? It's like the sovereignty of flying, and then the solidarity is there to get you to the end. Because like we can't get to freedom without each other. So
yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that so much. Thank you for being here, Natalie. Yeah. And if anybody has some comments they'd like to share about, I'm just curious in general, what is resonating for you from this conversation, or what you want to take away for yourself from this conversation, feel free to share that as well too. Because we'd love to know. This conversation's only been between us for so long, so I know it would be so much. It would be so much richer when we have more and more people, you know, embracing this and sharing their perspectives as well. No pressure, though, of course.
No pressure.
Mm-mm.
It's so funny because there's an eyeball on my screen that says 0. So until you said there were comments, I thought we were here by ourselves.
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah. Well, we've never used StreamYard before, right? So I love that. Like, I'm just gonna say again, celebrating that, you know, again, like that we're in an era of experimentation. Just that's what we do, you know. I think that's really the most radical thing we can do on any level. I can't see a whole lot of it myself, which is really funny, but it's been just so nice to like feel the energy. And I just want to honor the folks who have been here.
Yeah.
Just say thank you, Marion and Natalie and Stephanie, for coming and sharing your energy, and anyone else, if you also have joined. And we're glad that you're here. And for folks that are going to be watching the recording later as well too, we just invite you to connect with us and use those links below. We would love to see you at an upcoming Freedom Friday conversation, where that will be more of a group context, where we get to share and get to know each other and deep dive together into this and nourish each other.
Yes, and time is not real. So even if you're not here right now, you are here.
You are. That's right. Yes, you are.
Right now. Everyone is here right now.
Everyone is here right now. I love that.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, y'all. And we'll see you. Watch out for news about when the next Freedom Friday is. And we hope you join us.
Yes. Take care, everyone. Bye.